Hi, this is Penny Oates, and today I want to talk a little bit about survival. Now, that may seem rather a strange subject, but there's been an awful lot of hype in the media, if you know where to look, about what will happen if the dollar collapses or if the economic situation gets worse. Now, I'm not advocating that this will happen and we'll need to have survival in force, but I'm quite a cautious person in some aspects. So because I've been told for maybe 2-3 years that we all should be prepared for survival should the worst happen, I've researched it a little bit and found out what might be necessary. Just very quickly, if the dollar did collapse, or indeed the monetary system as a whole, which I think most of us would probably agree is broken, so something needs to come to a head at some point. If it did collapse, because we're now in an electronic age, all of a sudden the systems would go down and we'd have no access to money. If we had no access to money, most of us probably aren't aware, but there's only 3 days supply of flour in the shops anyway. So if it wasn't possible to get hold of money, so petrol, diesel wasn't available, and the shops couldn't get their supplies, very quickly we'd run out of food and the general system would collapse. That would obviously, very simply, just put it in simplified form, it would lead to riots, to looting, to nobody being able to get hold of supplies of any description, and the grid would go down, we'd lose electric, we'd lose access to water and that type of thing. So I looked at, well, I hope it's never going to happen. I hope the government would be able to counteract that, and I'm quite sure that nobody wants it to happen on their watch anyway, so they will keep delaying it. I mean, I think the forecast that we've been given recently is that the economy in the US is starting to get better. Now, whether that's just to buoy us up a bit, I don't know. But I thought, well, let's look at survival and let's look at worst case scenario. So what I've done and what I think is appropriate for people to do is to just keep on going, but because a lot of companies are now starting to put their money into euros as opposed to US dollars, I've made sure that I've got a company that works in euros, which is Flexcom. They're a German PLC company that are recruiting worldwide. Fabulous company, but more about that another day. So I've made sure that the main business opportunity I do is through a European company. The other precaution I've made is I collect tangible assets, because if there's no money and I need to barter to get something, because I'm not going to be able to fight my way through a horde of hooligans or whatever, if I need to barter, I need to have something to barter with. And whilst paper money might become worth what it's written on, paper value, gold and silver will still have a value because it's a tangible asset, as will food supplies. I collect silver through ISN coins because it's a great little business anyway, but it also gives me a very tangible asset to trade with. So apart from the business side and getting money together, I'm also building up a number of things. The first thing is a source of food, non-perishable food, and water. Water's probably the most important, because I could live off my pump for a few weeks, but not without water. I'd probably be dead in a few days. So I do keep a fairly big supply of bottled water, but I also have a couple of water tanks that we keep topped up. for the average man in the street, water purification tablets are probably essential. They're very cheap, but if you had a supply of those in and you were forced in times of crisis to use something that perhaps you hadn't previously thought of drinking out of, river water, supplies that potentially could be polluted, then purification tablets will be very, very useful. Next, food supplies. Well, we can't assume, unless you have a separate supply, a solar supply or whatever for electricity, that you can keep the freezer running. So it's no point having a freezer stock full if you don't have emergency supplies of electric. If you do, great, stock the freezer full of meat. If not, well, tinned food, dried food, that type of thing, it's always worth having a supply in. I keep at least 3 months supply in, because most of us would run out of food in a couple of weeks, and I don't think I'd particularly like that. The other things that a lot of people don't think about, after clean water, food supply and currency, is perhaps you need to protect yourself, because if we've got people rioting in the streets, you might even have animals turned out because there's no food or water for them, so they could become hungry. You could get wild dogs, you could get all sorts of things. So a way of protecting yourself, one of these pepper sprays is usually quite good to have around. I mean, I have a shotgun, but just make sure you're near someone that does give you protection. And then a few other things. Heating and lighting. If there was no electric, how would you survive? Do you have a good supply of batteries for your torch? Do you even have a torch? Do you have candles in? Do you have lights that will run off something other than electric, gas or solar or something of that nature? Do you have a form of heating? Solid fuel? Do you have a wood burning stove, or do you have some way of producing heat that doesn't require electric? Have you got a supply of warm clothes? Emergency first aid supplies are always very important. Apart from sort of plasters and bandages, imagine there weren't any hospitals, there weren't any doctors. What would you need as an emergency supply of first aid? You might have doctors around, you might have dentists, but they wouldn't have the equipment or the drugs to give you. So, particularly if you have a family, I think emergency first aid supply, a comprehensive supply, is quite important. And then the other thing, what if you were chucked out of your home? What if there was fires? What if people were raiding your home and you ended up having to quit your home? First of all, you might need an emergency supply of petrol so you could escape in your car. But apart from that, what are you going to live in? Have you got a tent? Have you got camping equipment? Have you got something you can cook on? If you had to ferret in the wild, would you have a backpack? Would you have a penknife? Would you have a compass? Those type of things are always worth keeping in reserve, if you like. So that gives you a rough idea. I'm not going to spell it all out for you, but I think just for the sake of a few pounds it's worthwhile being prepared. Hopefully nothing will ever happen, but there you go. I'm well prepared. Would I like to do it? Absolutely not. I remember my experience of camping in the UK. I remember going up to a lovely place many years ago with a boyfriend of mine, to Skye. We went across on the ferry and the car broke. I think the dynamo broke, so we ended up stopping by the side of the road. Nice landscape, so we thought we'll pitch the tent. Neither of us were obviously very good at this, because we'd pitched it near a stream, and of course Skye being Skye, the floodgates opened, started to rain throughout the night, and we woke up and we were floating down a stream. So I'm not sure I'd be very good at camping, but at least I've got the equipment there to use if I absolutely had to. So hopefully we'll never need that, but perhaps it's a good idea to build up the supplies of that we have, and to do that we need money. Now, I run a few home businesses that are very, very easy to run from home, so if you want to visit www.onlinebusiness.review, you'll see what I do, and we can help you to make some either additional money or a career change for you. So it's been great talking to you, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another video. Thank you. Goodbye.